of the Gambia as well. Happy International Women's Day to you all. Lamin, could you unmute everybody so we greet ourselves? Happy International Women's Day to start. Yeah. So people, could you just, before we commence, could you just unmute yourself and let's share a wonderful greeting for the International Women's Day 2021. Okay. Right.
Good morning. Happy International Women's Day.
Morning. Happy International Women's Day to you. Nice to see you. I'm not hearing the woman. Women.
Happy Women's Day to all.
Yeah, I was going to say women cannot be shy today. Eh?
We are creating space for men.
Exactly. For men to celebrate. Creating space for men to celebrate women. Yeah.
Happy International Women's Day to everybody.
Excellent. Excellent. Nice to see you. Okay. Good morning again. And
hi. International Women's Day, everyone.
Okay then. Good morning again.
Hello, good morning. Happy International Women's Day, everybody. Okay.
Very well. Very well. Okay, we're going to start. It's just about 11 a.m. now. And let me again welcome you to this intergenerational dialogue to commemorate the 2021 International Women's Day. I'm co-organized by the UN system in the Gambia and the University of the Gambia. My name is Kunle Adeni. I'm the representative of UNFPA in the Gambia and the chair of the UN Gender Team Group. And I will be the moderator of the session and the go-to person for this meeting today. The International Women's Day is a day to basically celebrate the achievements of women, raise awareness against the bias that unfortunately continue to exist against women, but also to call on action towards gender equality. It is not my role to explain these three issues that I've set aside, but the role of the panelists we're going to be having today to discuss these issues. This session is going to go for about 2 hours at the maximum. We know everybody's busy, but the idea is for us to have a mix of ideas between the young women of the Gambia, the energy of youth, the aspiration of youth, what young women of the Gambia see as issues and how to better, create gender equality in the Gambia, but also to match that with the experience of the, I know women don't like to speak about age, so I will not speak to that issue, but I would say the experience of a little bit more advanced, ladies amongst us, and with the belief that together, a saying goes where I come from, that for a young person to wash their hand and the adult to wash their hand, that's how we create progress and growth. So we believe that this intergenerational dialogue can foster unity and chart a path forward towards gender equality and the empowerment of women in the Gambia. I'll quickly tell you how this is going to go. We're going to have an opening statement by the representative of the University of the Gambia, Professor Ranu Jai, who is also the Provost School of Medicine and Allied Sciences of UTG. Then the UN Resident Coordinator will speak. I will still go, then of course the panel will start with our panelists who are divided into 2 groups, of course. We'll start with a general overview, of the status of women in the Gambia, and then we'll ask our young people, a few questions. Then our elders, after listening to that, will give us their insights on the issues we are discussing, And then we would, maybe if we have time, we can take a few questions from the floor, and the audience. Before I go on, I would quickly, like to introduce okay, I think we should start by having the opening statement. Then after that, I will introduce the panelists and we'll go forward. So it is my honor and privilege to welcome Professor Ramutilai Njai, the Provost of the School of Medicine and Allied Sciences of University of the Gambia, to give an opening statement. Very good. Thank you very much. Ramu, over to you. Nice to see you.
Good morning. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, we hear you. We hear you.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Kunle, and good morning to all the UN family, colleagues from the University of the Gambia, the phenomenal women here present, and all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I am very pleased to of the International Women's Day with the theme Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. I think we all know why we're doing this virtually. The COVID-19 pandemic has been devastating, not just to all the countries in the world, but in all the countries in the world, has disproportionately affected women in their roles as caregivers, as workers. And so hopefully some of the key issues will come out when the panelists make their presentations. Now, Kunle, I'm not actually, I wouldn't be offended if you called me an older woman. So I consider myself an older woman. But the fact that actually I am here today in front of you as the first ever, female professor of medicine, gastroenterologist, clinician scientist, and provost in the university, I think is a testament to the change that's happening in the university. I think this is a landmark in the annals of the UTG history in terms of women empowerment and women in leadership positions. And I hope that my appointment, which is less than a year, I've only been in the university for half a year, will be the start of real effort and concerted effort by the university to attract, recruit, and retain women in leadership positions. And this is important because women make up half of the population, a substantial part of the student body. And we all know that women leadership actually is dynamic. Women bring energy, focus, and inclusivity into leadership roles. And it is not an accident that those countries that did the best in terms of response to the COVID-19 pandemic were actually countries that were led by women. So personally, I have been a member of the COVID-19 expert advisory group, and I was also tasked with writing the treatment guidelines for the country. So I welcome you all. I'm looking forward to hearing from all our wonderful panelists from the UN family, and hopefully we will come up with some concrete ideas as to how to overcome those barriers that actually and obstacles that stand in the way of women getting into leadership positions. So with that, I'll say thank you all and welcome. Back to you, Kunle.
Thank you very much, Professor Njai. I dare not call you the way I used to call you before. Status has really changed. And I congratulate you again on your appointment and your position. Again, it shows that the women of the Gambia continue to break the glass ceiling and are rising, and growing in concrete and out of concrete, despite the many challenges that our women indeed face. Thank you for those words. And again, we know that we all hope that this conversation on women leadership, challenges and opportunities will bring concrete ideas and way forward that we can, really implement. And the UN system is committed to supporting that. Now, to elucidate on that kind of support that I spoke about, it's my honor to welcome Ms. Serafin Wakana, the resident representative of the United Nations system in the Gambia, to give a statement and thoughts. Serafin, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Kunle. Do you hear me?
I hear you, and if I hear you, everyone hears you. So go ahead.
Thank you very much, Kunle, for giving me this opportunity to sit on this intergenerational dialogue. It's a pleasure for me as a UN resident coordinator in the Gambia. And we are happy to also see that we are building strong partnership with the University of the Gambia in different ways, and joining this intergenerational dialogue is an important thing for us as we are here to really strengthen partnerships with those who are capable. So thank you, Ramatullah, for your welcome remarks. And good morning, all those who are going to be at the panel. I see a long list of women, and it's a pleasure to see that the theme is not only here to celebrate the International Women's Day, but to also call for action, as Kunle mentioned. So allow me to maybe repeat some of what you have already done to just put everything in order for the discussions. And for us at the UN, I'm happy to say that the gender equality is leading in all the institutions. And I'm happy here to say that our Secretary General Guterres is leading on this. And he was happy today to announce that he has reached 50-50 of filling all the high level positions, including the resident coordinator's position. So it's a real pleasure for us as women in the UN to see that our leaders are really taking this as a serious matter and advocating for more and more equality. So today, let me remind everybody that International Women's Day is celebrated globally, and it's covering all the domains. We embrace the social, the economic, the cultural, the political, all the achievements of the women. But the day marks, as I mentioned earlier, a call for action to see how we can contribute to accelerate the women's equality. We know that significant activity is witnessed worldwide as groups come together to celebrate women's achievements or rally for women's equality. The theme for this year is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in COVID-19 World. This year, we will celebrate the tremendous efforts by women and girls around the world in shaping a more equal future on the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. And this will be done through sport awareness. As we celebrate International Women's Day, we are also concerned about the impact of COVID-19 on aspirations of women and girls to the leadership position and its effect on our collective work to empower women. The pandemic has created a new reality that is significantly reversing decades of progress made toward realizing gender equality as envisioned by the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We know, but even if these are affecting women, we also know that women have been struggling but have been battling to really recover from this, and also helping others to recover. And I hope this online dialogue, which is part of the series of events that the UN system is carrying to mark the day, this intergenerational dialogue on how diverse leadership can change the world for gender equality. We hope that we are going to get your voice and also learn from everybody how leaders can really help to improve women's leadership. We hope the event will open a conversation on issues that seek to inhibit the empowerment of women and girls. And as leaders from various sectors and young women from the university, I see you are many, seek to hold this conversation. We hope this will create opportunity and platform to focus on the importance of inclusive leadership and the change it can bring for all girls and women, and understand the impact and importance of leadership in high stakes situations, as well as reflecting on how equal representation can help the world build back better and different. So let me conclude by saying that despite the numerous challenges women and girls face, they continue to blaze a trail in many spheres of development. For example, they constitute a formidable force in the COVID-19 frontline response. As doctors, we had already our sister Ramatulai. We have nurses, we have innovators, community organizers, as well as providers of unpaid care work in homes, taking on the greater burden of household chores and caring for family members infected by the virus. Yeah, sometimes we forget that those staying at home, preparing food for their children, without being paid, we forget that they are contributing a lot to the development and to the empowerment of women. So 1 year into the pandemic, the indispensable roles of women in the daily substance of family and the first safeguarding of communities during challenging times of great upheaval. So I believe that you are all from different sectors. Let's have your view on how we can empower women, and particularly for the Gambia. Let's be more focused and help. You know, the UN is here to implement programs, but we need good ideas. And I hope that from this intergenerational dialogue, we will learn more, and we will get, and it will also impact on our programs. Thank you all for participating to this discussions. Thanks for also partnering with UN. We hope that this is the first entry point, and that we will build on what we discuss and build more programs and achieve more results. And I hope that from all what we are going to have, women will recover better from the COVID-19. I thank you all for your kind attention. Over to you, Kunle.
Thank you very much, dear resident coordinator. You couldn't have said it better. COVID-19 has exacerbated the bias and the inequality against women. It has even threatened to reverse the many progress that have been made in issues like female genital mutilation. Gender-based violence was on the increase due to COVID-19. Women are having to look after, stay at home and home care, unpaid care work, and also women form a majority of the frontline health workers, nurses, midwives that are, that have to look after patients in COVID-19 and put their lives and the lives of their families at risk. And these are one of the issues that we'll be discussing going forward. And thank you very much for reiterating the support of the UN system to women empowerment in the Gambia and the need to, take that seriously. Without wasting much time, I will dive into the conversation. Like it's been advertised, we intend to discuss women leadership, challenges and opportunities in a COVID-19 world, from a very diverse point of view. Like I said, we have youth leaders, but we want to look at it from both economic, political, government, and also the private sector. And that's why I'm happy to have a diverse group of speakers here today. I'll quickly introduce the speakers, the panelists today, so that, before we dive into that. The first person who will speak will be Mosu Bakoto Salo. Mosu is a trailblazer. She is a lecturer at the University of the Gambia, someone I'm proud to have worked with very well. She was until recently, I think Deputy Executive Secretary of the TRRC, and she's an multiple award winner on women empowerment, from the Gambia. Welcome, Musu. The next panelist will be Intergenerational Joe. Intergenerational is the Deputy Speaker of the National Youth Parliament in the Gambia, and Ndaba will be speaking on youth issues, like we said. Then we also have Mariama Danso. Mariama is the Vice President of the University of the Gambia Student Union, and she'll be speaking on the issues of leadership as it affects youth and the aspiration. Then on the other side of the divide, we have Professor Ramo was very clear that she didn't mind. We have, Ms. Patu Jaru, who is the Managing Director of Takafu Insurance. I want to believe one of the few female CEOs in investment and the private sector in the Gambia. We have Madam Nafi Bari. Madam Bari is the President of the Women Chamber of Commerce. I knew her in her former life when she was the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Trade in the Gambia. We have Madam Yankuba Jaite, and she is a parliamentarian, one of the less than 20% of the Gambian parliament that come from the women gender. And she will be speaking to us, on her role and the issues of women in leadership in the political setting. And then finally, we'll have the man who has come in the middle of that, Mr. Chuks Uga. Mr. Chuks is the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Standard Chartered Bank, the Gambia, an organization we believe has experience to share with us on promoting gender equality in a big business that cuts across the world, but also in the Gambia. Please join me in welcoming the panelists. And if the panelists could please turn on their videos, their cameras for a bit. All our panelists and speakers, please, if you could turn on your video, we would appreciate that very quickly. Thank you. I see Again, I see Ratu, I see Mariama, I see Yakuba. Thank you so much. I hope we have everybody on that. So very quickly, I'm going to give the floor to the lecturer amongst us. It's always good to hear first from our teachers, because teachers set the floor. We're true teachers, and the lecturer will help us understand the status of Gambian women, just an overview of the representation, leadership, and challenge, the opportunities. So it gives us the setting and the precursor to the conversations we are going to have. So Mosu is going to help us do justice to that and to give us, a brief on the status of the Gambian women. Mosu, welcome, and over to you.
Good morning, Kunle. Thank you very much for that introduction. Just to say that it's an absolute honor to be here on this panel with brilliant women that cut across many generations, and to talk about the issue of law, culture, and leadership in the Gambia. We know there is a relationship between law, culture, and also the participation of women in terms of representation in leadership positions. And I think it is ideal and important to talk about it in that regard. First, when you talk about women in positions of power in our context, the Gambia, we know that there are not many women in parliament. Out of the many representatives that we have in parliament, only about 5 or 6 are women. This is not encouraging, because when you look at the National Assembly where laws are made, it is important to have women in these positions so that they're able to make well-informed decisions about issues that affect women, and the policies and laws that are developed in that respect would be beneficial to women as a whole. Because whereas there are very few women in parliament, it is also, we know based on our system, that it is impossible for laws to be passed, laws in particular that are favorable to women to be passed when there are many people within those parliaments who do not have any regard for women's rights in particular. So I think it's very important for us to be able to understand that as well. And when you look at the issue of representation within the cabinet as well, we only have about 4 women in cabinet. I don't think this is something that's encouraging when we look at the fact that parliament, rather cabinet is a place where decisions are also made because the executive is part of the law enforcers in our context as well. And it is important that to have the many voices of women amplified. I think sometimes we make mistakes thinking that women are homogeneous. Women are not homogeneous. Women are different, they are diverse, they're affected by several issues. A woman of privilege, for example, may not be able to understand the rural woman, her suffering, her struggles on a daily basis. A woman from a rich background may not be able to also understand the same respect. A woman from urban Gambia may not be able to understand the rural woman. So it is important for us to be able to have representation across the board. Our culture, of course, plays a key role in terms of how women are not in position of power. For the most part, we know that in our context, where our cultures tell us that for a woman to make it to heaven, it lies under the feet of her husband. So we encourage women to be in welfare positions, to be mothers, to be wives. We don't encourage professionalism because we believe that for many of our cultures that the woman's role is limited to these positions of welfare and not to be seen as an intellectual. And this for the longest time has lowered the self-esteem of women, but also has discouraged them in terms of what other roles that they can play, because they've been told by their mothers, by their grandmothers, and other members of the society that in order for them to be classified as a good woman, they need to be someone who is at home and taking care of their family. And I think there's a lot of restriction in that regard in terms of education, accessing education. And I also think because of culture, there are not many parents who are sending their children to school, their girl child for that matter, because of the fact that they believe that for a lot of them that it would be a waste of resources because these girls are going to go ahead and get married. So there isn't much of an opportunity to allow these people to have a vision, to want to be better, to want to be a professional beyond the fact that they're very much restricted because they want them to be someone's mother or someone's wife. And in terms of our laws as well, we were hoping that, for example, with the draft constitution, which has at least a 14-seat quota, would increase the representation of women at least to 20%. As of now in the National Assembly, it's about 10%. This is not encouraging really. So law needs to be put in place. We need to have some form of affirmative action, bearing in mind that there are realities of women in this country, that there is a reason, there is a certain disadvantage that women face in the Gambia that men do not face. And as a result, there need to be put in place mechanisms that will enable these women to be elevated and be in these positions of leadership and power. If we have few women in positions of power or leadership in this country, it would be very difficult for us to be able to advance the agenda of women in whatever way possible. It's great that we're partnering with women, with men, and they're speaking on our behalf, but it is also important that women speak on their own behalf. It will not be possible for us to be able to make any advancement or any improvement in relation to the agenda of women if we do not have more women in position of power. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Musu, for that. You're indeed a teacher, for that brief but powerful, explanation of the different issues that affect women. You really spoke about culture. But the good thing is that culture is ever-changing issue, and you really spoke about leadership in the political arena. It's good we have a parliamentarian here who is going to tell us how she did it and how that happened. We'll come back to you with questions. Please stay on, and thank you for that. Please, participants and people on the call, if you have any questions, you may please, for the panelists, please put it in the chat and let us know the panelists you are directing your questions to. Now to the mates. I would now go to our young people from the university, the leaders of the current and not the future, as we like to say. Let me call on the Vice President of the UTG Student Association, Mariama. And what I would like you to speak about to educate us on the challenges that you believe are faced by young women, aspiring for leadership. What was your experience, and what do you think we can do about that? Over to you, Mariama, and nice to have you here.
Thank you very much. A wonderful good morning to you all. First, I would like to wish every beautiful woman out there an happy International Women's Day. And then it's an honor sharing this platform and being able to speak on issues that affect the advancement of women, especially in the Gambia. I have been tasked with the responsibility to discuss on issues that affect young women and girls that would want to aspire for leadership positions. I would just take it from where Musu stopped, which is some of the challenges that women are faced with. To start with, I would want to open my discussion on the issue of education. When you look at it in the Gambia, for primary education, we have up to 60% of them, which are girls, that are going to school. But then you realize as they grow through the system, the number decreases on a daily basis. For example, when you head towards the junior school, it drops down to 42%. As you go further, you realize when it gets to tertiary institution, as we speak, we have less than 15% of them that are women. So that tells you that as they grow, the number keeps on decreasing. Now, it would interest us to know what are some of the reasons why we have women in schools, but gradually the number keeps on decreasing. One of the issues that keeps affecting girls in the Gambia would be forced and early marriages as we know it. Women are forced to leave school and to join the matrimony because of very many reasons. Poverty is one that they claim to give an excuse to most of the time. But then we understand that the government came in to say, we are going to provide access to free education to be able to advance the basic right when it comes to education. But we understand it is one thing to declare a law, but implementing becomes a problem. And on a daily basis, like we said, the number keeps on increasing. Girls are being forced out of classes to be brides. But what is the law saying about it? And these are issues that are happening on the ground, and not much has been done about it. We also look at another thing that is very much important, which is the cultural orientation of our people. For example, we have expected gender roles that a girl is supposed to behave this way, a boy is supposed to behave another way. The normal circumstances would be this in a common Gambian house. When a boy and a girl are all going to school, the chances of the girl being asked to go wash bowls and do other house chores is more than the boy. Mostly when you close from school, the boy would be asked to go have a rest or maybe go play football. But for the lady, you have little or more no time to rest at all. It's either you are helping mommy in the kitchen or you're doing house chores. So you see to it that it's a very exhausting process. When do you have time to be able to read your books, to be able to study? And then even at night when you're reading as well, they still want to ask you for one or two other responsibilities that you're supposed to do in the house. So this makes it very much difficult for girls to be able to achieve the greatest of potentials they can have. We also look at the issue of the difference in the dynamics. For example, young women and girls that are in schools in the urban areas most of the time have access to ready-made materials in schools and also other community support. But for girls in the rural areas, it is sad, it is just pathetic. And this is one of the problems that we have as a country, because most of the time when it comes to the issue of building the capacities, governments and most institutions tend to focus more on the urban centers than that of the rural areas. And that is a problem that we have in this country. We talk about another thing that is very much important, which is young girls and also building their capacities. It is one thing to want to vie for a leadership position, but do you have the required knowledge, experience to be able to push into that responsibility? That is a question we need to ask ourselves. And unless and until we're able to provide those opportunities for young girls, they can never make it to certain levels. So that is another problem we also experience when it comes to the advancement of women and young girls in this country. It will take a lot of people not to even vote at all than to vote a woman in position. That tends to show how much patriarchy also plays its role in the
Mariama, can you please switch your video off so that you could do with the limited bandwidth that you have?
Mariama, do you hear me? Mariama.
Yeah.
Mariama, do you hear me? Hello, Mariama. Oh. Hello, Mariama. Mariama. It appears we are losing Mariama. Interestingly, she was giving us some wonderful perspective.
Hello?
Mariama, do you hear me?
Yes, I can. My network acted up a little. I apologize for that.
Okay, that's very fine. Could you please let's have your video off so that we can maximize the limited bandwidth you have. I'll suggest you turn off your video whilst you continue to give us the interesting perspective. Thank you so much. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead,
Okay.
please.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And another thing that I want to put to notice also, when you talk about issues of women and poverty, as the saying goes, poverty has a feminine face. Most women are involved into business, but at unofficial sectors. So it is important that we understand that it is women are involved in business, but at unofficial setups. So it affects them because when you look at it, they are into the markets, they're into other places. So when such a person wants to come out to request for public office, they question her gender, they question her experience, they question a lot of other issues because these are issues that we feel are meant for men only. So that is another issue that affects women when it comes to advancing their political agenda. And we also know political office attracts a lot of funds. And putting into consideration our African realities and also cultural realities, it is very much difficult for a woman to come all out to request for funds because for very many reasons, it attracts or denotes a very negative interpretation. For example, only a few people would be very much genuine to support without asking for anything in return. The chances of questioning a woman's qualification in this country or in this world is high. For example, a man and a woman can be qualified for a same issue, and they're both looking for it. But once a woman is promoted also, they either put it to the fact that she had to either sleep with the boss or she had to do one or two other funny things for her to get to that level. So I think there is a need for us to change our orientation when it comes to how we look at women in relation to us giving them a space to be able to build up their capacity. And then looking at the scope of feminism and the scope of activism and the shape it has taken in the 21st century, one thing that is very much important is to build the capacities of people. For example, most of the things that we learn in classes sometimes only is restricted to the world of academics. But how do you make sure a person is integrated into the world of professionalism is through constant capacity building. Like if public speaking is an issue, help build their capacity in public speaking. If campaigning and lobbying of funds is an issue, help build their capacities in those areas. But that is a problem we have. And I would want to commend few institutions that actually invest their resources in areas like that. But then also, in as much as that is going on, let us also make sure we bridge the gap between rural women and also urban women so that we would be able to achieve the goal that we desire. And also looking at the hashtag for this year, it is saying choose to challenge. I would want to urge each and every young person out there that has a goal, a vision, to be able to come all out. It is high time we stopped begging for issues that are our rights, but to demand them, but also with open mind to know that in as much as you want to demand your right, it also goes with responsibilities. For example, if you're saying we want to make sure women are given the opportunity to go to school, as a young person, it is also your responsibility to make sure you make best use of that opportunity to be able to grab the best that will help you grow and develop your personal and professional career. There is a lot to say, but then for the purpose of time, I would like to stop here for now. Hopefully when questions come, we can see how we address that. And I also apologize for the issue of the network as well. Over to you, Kunle.
Thank you, Mariama, for that excellent delivery. I picked a lot from what you've said, and I'm happy you addressed the issue that affects the girl child starting. And so you really represented the young people and the girls very well. You spoke about early marriage, and you spoke about education, keeping girls out of school, and the need to, gender-assigned roles of girls, which might not, and the general inequality between men and women, girls and boys. There are questions coming in the chat, and I take them. Some of the questions you're already answering. Aisata has an interesting question on how to ensure women representation, and I see you've already begun. I will encourage other panelists also. I will be sharing the questions, on how to improve women representation. I see that there's a lot of interest in that, even from what I'm hearing from Parliament, especially as we go towards the 2021 election. You've spoken about building capacities of people and working towards misinformation. Thank you very much. We will come back to you with other questions as we seek to find concrete ways of addressing the many issues you have raised. The next speaker will be no other person than Indegen Job, who is the Deputy Speaker of the Youth Parliament. The Youth Parliament is the body of young people that I believe is supposed to mirror the National Assembly. I do hope that the Youth Parliament has at least a 50-50 gender balance, as opposed to the National Assembly, where we'll be hearing from a parliamentarian. So I'm really interested in hearing from you. And please help us to understand the importance of the movement in unlessing youth leadership, especially women leadership within the youth movement. The challenges, as you see, and now we can improve that. Thank you very much, and then over to you.
Thank you very much, our HIFOCs on the platform, and happy Women's Day to the beautiful women on the platform. It's an honor sharing this platform with brilliant women, both from the older generation and the young generation. Thank you very much. My speech today will be on the challenges of young women leadership, especially in the civil society organizations. I would say that the challenges young women face is everywhere, even in the civil society organization. I heard you asking, you were expecting that it will be better in the civil society organization. I'm sorry to be a bearer of bad news, but it is not. Some of these challenges we face are because of, like Mariama highlighted, most of the time it's because of cultural barriers we have as young women, because the youth or civil society work is very, very demanding. We work a whole day and even work online the whole night to meet donors' expectations, to make sure we reach the last youth, the last woman, and the last child in the grassroots, but also fight to keep our organizations going. Those three roles make it so hectic for us. And as young women, we are expected to contribute on chores at home. We are expected to be on our education. We are even expected to come home at certain hours of the day. We are not expected to stay too late outside, which is not expected of the boy child. This gives them more time and more opportunity to be participating in the civil society space than us young women do. So you tend to see them dominating the space, not because young women can, but because we are not allocated, enough or adequate time as they are, because we have other cultural expectations we are to fulfill. It is a little better with the urban women, but with the rural women, it's more even difficult, because you have the rural young woman to fight and say, I am not going to fall for these expectations because I want more. But the rural women don't have that chance to say, I am not going to fall for these expectations. And the second thing is also the male dominant aspect of it. And these issues I just highlighted make it male dominant. In the civil society, it is very dominated by men, because of we have other roles we are expected to fulfill. We cannot be active 100% in the civil society space. And this makes it very difficult for women to acquire leadership positions, because men are seen doing the more work. We tend to be in the background doing the work and giving men to do the finishing touches, or as myself serving as deputies. And most of the time, in fact, we just fill positions because we want to fulfill the gender mainstreaming aspect for our donors, and also for what is expected of us as a civil society. But women sometimes occupy these positions, and yet still, their roles are as white elephants, and not exactly participating as the other gender. All because of these challenges we face. Most of the time we talk about quota representatives in the political space, but I don't think it's time that it's not a bad idea bringing it in the civil society space. We need it very much, because you tend to have women more of deputies and sitting on the back than women leading civil society organizations. These challenges I highlighted are also challenges young women face when it comes to aspiring for leadership positions in the civil society space. And it is even worse for rural young women. because another reason is most of the time our work requires us to be going out, to be meeting the grassroots, to be interacting with people in the community. Even right now, I am away in Essau because we are in community dialogue. So we tend to travel too much to meet the grassroots. And this starts raising questions from our families, from the society, because we are young women. We are not expecting to be traveling with men. Our family don't know. Maybe our society most of the time don't know. And it becomes very difficult for young single women to be traveling up and down just to fulfill our responsibilities as youth representatives, to make sure we meet young people wherever they are and either spread the message or give the information or implement projects with them. It becomes difficult sometimes for us. Yeah, thank you very much. I pass it over to you. See you later.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for those nice words. I note that you're on the road. Well done. Continue to push the station. A few things you've said, you speak specifically. I'm not presently surprised to note that even the limited women leadership and participation is endemic in all our areas, including the civil society. And I think that goes to the cultural issues that all the speakers before you and yourself have raised. Women are supposed to have equal roles, unpaid, cooking, not going out, the dominance of as we come back to you, we hope that you have clear suggestions on how we might be able to change the narrative and increase women and youth participation. So I'll come back to you later. I was almost going to say you should talk to your video. I realize you're in the field and the bandwidth is low. So towards the end, if you do come back, we will accept not turn on your video. We have seen your face and we see you are well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think we have heard, very well on challenges from our young people. It ranges from culture to education to academic issues, and it just goes on and on. And I believe that it is now time for us to have conversations from people who have also gone through these challenges that young people face and have been able to make, to come out, like I say, of the concrete. Please, do you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Kunle, we can hear you.
Hear me, okay. Let me apologize for that break in transmission. The reality is I'm also in the field. So things that do happen. Quickly, I was saying that it's time to hear from our leaders and captains of industry on how they've probably been able to navigate these challenges that our young women have raised, and to give us, for us to learn from them. And because this conversation majorly started with political issues and places, let me start with the parliamentarian Yakuba Jaite, who is a nominated member of the National Assembly. please, we'd like you to tell us, the role of women in politics, the challenges that women face in getting political position, and the opportunities that might exist, like you are an example, especially going towards the 2021 general elections, to improve women participation in parliament and all decision-making processes in the Gambia. Thank you very much. Over to you, honorable member.
Thank you very much. Am I being heard?
Yes, you can go ahead, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on this panel. I really appreciate the opportunity. Greetings to all the participants. It's a pleasure to share this panel with you. I'll go right into the discussion, and I'm glad that politics is taking the forefront of this discussion, because when you talk about leadership, fortunately, I would say unfortunately, political leadership is actually one of the most important leadership. Because as we all know, politicians at the end of the day, be it the executive or parliament, are the ones, and the judiciary too, it affects everyone. Politicians are the ones that end up making these decisions that affects our lives as women, whether it is in legislation or whether it is in taxation or all these issues. It is the politicians that have the responsibility as parliamentarians to pass these laws. So like Musu said, and all the rest of the participants mentioned, that when it comes to the Gambia and it comes to the level of women representation, both in parliament and executive, is quite very low. In parliament at present, we have only 6 women, 3 elected and the other 3 nominated, including the speaker herself, the speaker, Mariam Jack Denton of the National Assembly of the Gambia. We are 6 out of 58. That's basically less than 10%, and that is a problem. That is a problem. I'm glad I saw a question saying, how do we take this opportunity to address this this issue of the dearth of women leadership in parliament during the next elections? And I think it's important we start the discussions now. So many reasons have been given on why young women particularly shy away from leadership roles, why they don't have enough opportunities. It's an issue of how to get there. And also when you get there, you have the struggle continues. It doesn't end, because you always have to fight for this position. Particularly, I would say in my own experience, I'm an example of fighting to even stay in this position. I don't know if we've heard about the Yakumba Jaite versus the Attorney General case, when I was illegally booted out of Parliament in 2018, and I had to take the matter all the way to Supreme Court. It lasted there for 11 months before I won, luckily, and came back to Parliament. But one of the reasons I did that is because I did not want a young woman who were aspiring to become politicians, who were aspiring to become parliamentarians, to be told, look at what happened to Yakumba. Because I would say that the executive, the president, who I said, had no reason to boot me out. They did not give one single reason in the letter that revoked my nomination, just because of the fact that we no longer belong to the same political party. That's what was the reason why I was victimized. But I didn't want it to end there. I could have gone back to work. I'm a legal practitioner. I could have gone back to practice and forget everything about politics at the time. But I felt if I did that, it would actually discourage other young women to vie for these positions. So it was very important for me to fight and say, look, this is not going to be an end of it. These young women are going to see me fight. They're going to see me come back and take my position. And they're going to tell themselves, well, if Yakumba could do it, we too can do it. So
it is very important that we encourage the young women to take up these positions in leadership. I don't know what the UN can do to support these kind of initiatives coming next elections, because like Musu said, when I was in Parliament in 2017, I actually initiated the Women Caucus. And one of the aims of this caucus was to go out and talk to young women and encourage them to be active in politics. Unfortunately, when I was booted out, I came back and the committee was the caucus was inactive. But we actually need the support to carry on this initiative, and I actually encourage young women not to shy away from the politics, because in our society as well, our politics gets a little bit dirty. I know it's the insults. They would insult you, insult your parents, insult everyone that knows you, and these things are kind of very much discouraging. So it would be, even if you want to, you would have your family. I heard that every time from family members, not my immediate family, extended family members telling me, why can't you just quit politics and go and continue your legal practice? You would actually make more money in legal practice than you would in politics. But I'll tell them someone has to do it, because we need to have a voice in how our country is governed. It's very important that we have a voice in how the country is governed. So for these reasons, I would actually encourage the UN, maybe from this meeting, for us to find a way of how to help encourage young women. I would also tell Musu, she is the type that we would want to see in Parliament. Maybe next elections you can run. And it is important we have people like you on board the decision-making process. It's very important with your experience, and it will be very inspiring for younger women. Politics is generally not easy. I've had right now I am actually coming from court, again in another court case between me and the state. These are just things they are doing to get me out of Parliament. But I am determined to continue, and I am not going to relent in continuing what I have started. I will end this term, hopefully in peace. So this is where we are now, and I hope from these discussions we would actually have solutions on how to encourage young women to join politics and be part of the decision-making process. I'll stop here for now.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. It was breaking at the end, but I hope you are done. Right? Okay, I believe she was done. Thank you very much for that explanation and discussion on the role of women in politics. I know that is very important, because politics would appear to be, a very important area, where we need women leadership. Because, like you said, politicians create the directive principles of states, and the policies and laws and actions that will guide the state and develop the state that are in the hands of politicians. And I understand that. We know the challenges you raised. I will trust that when we come back to you, we'll have some opportunities from you, 1, 2, 3, and we'll really, I heard your issues at the law courts, and now you believe that encourages women. And how do we really put that out there the more, and to encourage women to participate in the political process, of the nation? That would be important to know. So thank you very much. And very quickly, we know that money is very important. Indegen spoke about poverty issues around women, and women remain also, whilst they do a lot of labor, they remain one of the most vulnerable financially in our midst. I'm happy to have women here who have broken those kinds of barriers and have held position in the private sector, and a wealth creating area. So let me quickly call on Ms. Fatu Jallo, the Managing Director of Takafu Gambia, the first and if not only Islamic insurance company in the Gambia, to just help us to understand how women, navigate, their path to leadership in the private sector. Taking also from the experiences that the young women before us had spoken about, challenges of education, unpaid care work, gender assigned roles, discrimination based on sex, and all those other things. So please, Madam Fatu, you may take the floor. I would really like to hear from you and your experiences. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Kunle. Good afternoon, my fellow panelists. Good afternoon to everybody. I would like to take this opportunity to wish all the women out there a very happy International Women's Day. I am honored to be part of this panel discussion on women, gender issues, and I've been tasked today to talk on moving from the base to the top. It's quite an interesting topic, and I would try my best to ensure that we talk of what we want to do. But before I do that, I just wanted to draw our attention to what's happening around the world with regards to women leadership. Women leaders around the world have had considerably more successes, especially in trying to slow down the spread of COVID-19. This is not automatic. I say this is purely because of their leadership roles or their leadership styles. Women are natural leaders, so it's just natural that some of the things that we achieve because we are real leaders, and we're natural leaders. We're here to nurture. So because we're here to nurture, if we lead a team and nurture them well, we're bound to succeed. What really takes women from the base to the top is my duty today. It's not an easy task, because as a woman you have a lot of challenges around you, and at the same time you're trying to fight to improve your career, to move up. I have been lucky, I can say, to have gone through this process for the past years. It's not easy, but I believe in working, working to the top, and not really finding the back way to the top, or finding a shortcut to the top. I believe in striving to be the best. In striving to be the best, really, I believe that in our society, we need to have a complete mindset change with regards to what we do as women. We need to move away from the skill set approach to the ability set approach. Yes, we can have skills, but if we don't show the ability to be able to take that skill to something else, or to use that skill to be able to benefit the society, to benefit the people around us, sometimes it's really of no good to anybody at the end of the day. So we need to really strive to be the best at all times. We don't really have to accept to settle for second best. As a woman, sometimes, yes, because of exactly what the previous speakers have said, because of culture and where we find ourselves, we tend to really accept what is there. Like, you are just a woman, so you have to be at the house, or you have to do this, or you have to do that. The most important thing is that we need to have within us that we want to excel. So if that is in you, it has to be portrayed. It has to be portrayed in the things that we do. We need to lead by example. I said women are natural leaders, but if you're a natural leader, whatever you do, you are already an example. Whatever you do is being seen. It's being seen by the people that you work with. It's being seen by your own children. It's being seen by society. So you need to ensure that in every step that you take as a woman, you should be portraying something, and that whatever you're portraying should be a positive thing, because you have people around you, people looking up to you. So we need to always try to lead by example, and ensuring that whatever we do on a daily basis is the right thing. I just want to use this opportunity for us to remember that as Muslims, I'm speaking from Takafu, we have a great example in the persons of Khadija alayhi salam, was the prophet of the wife of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she was an exemplary leader. At that time, she was able to be a very great trader within the area, and one of the richest as well.
Madam Patu, I'm
yes,
not
sir.
sure if I'm the only one, but I can't really hear you. So we have you now. If you could turn off your camera, maybe we should try that if we could, because you're saying very important things now that we don't want to miss.
Okay, all right. I'll put off the camera. Sorry, Kuli. I hope you're getting me better now.
Much better now.
Very good, thank you. I would continue. I was saying that as Muslim women in the Gambia, which we are over 90% of the population is Muslim, we have Khadija to look at. She was a great woman of her time. She was a trader. She was a wife of a prophet, and she was in some cases even there to advise the prophet, as what we're told. So these are all examples that we can really touch from. We cannot really be sit as backbenchers all the time. We have to be in front. You cannot always be in front doing good without a good character. As a woman, it's good that you portray a good character. If you are in an institution and you want to excel, your character really speaks better than anything else that you do. So you have to be trustworthy, you have to be friendly, you have to be, but the character really speaks for itself and it carries you a long way. So apart from the good that you do, apart from doing your dues as and when it is expected, the character also speaks volumes. So doing the right thing always also really helps you to get to the top, because people are watching. Your supervisors are watching you. The people working under you are also watching you. So you always try to do the right thing. In my career, really, I have worked with women bosses, women leaders that have really inspired me. So it's also good to have like an inspiration, something that you want to be, somebody that you want to be, and then you work towards that with a lot of good conscience, doing the right thing and ensuring that because in the public sector, really, whatever you get from the public sector is as of merit, from my experience. I mean, there is no shortcut to getting to anywhere without really working for it and working really hard for it before it is really seen and appreciated, and then you get rewarded for it. So working hard is really the answer to it. As we go through the journey also as women, we need men. It's yesterday's International Women's Day, as we celebrate women. It's also good to recognize the fact that yes, we have men amongst us that really support us and push us to get to where we are today. Our husbands will always be, edgy to ensure that you're getting what you are supposed to get. You're doing what you're supposed to do. So that support as well that we get from the men should not be overlooked. I guess we need to also commend the men for that. In short, briefly, to really move from the base to the top in the public sector of this world, it is purely based on merit, and it has to be the right thing. You have to really work hard for it. I must admit that it's not easy to have to juggle between work and home. It's always a challenge, and it will continue to be a challenge, but it's a challenge that is really very important to take and push. Conley said we are the old people around this room today, but yes, it's good that we've seen what it was before, where really the glass ceiling was really strong and very difficult to penetrate. We've seen today, yes, we are beginning to break this glass ceiling, and it's really encouraging to see women move up. It's also, I am also very, very optimistic to hearing from the younger generation that the future is really bright for women of this country and also women around the world. Listening to the Musus of this world, Mariama and the others, it's really encouraging to hear that. I mean, girls are, youth of today are actually pushing from all angles, from the parliament, from the universities, just to ensure that ladies are actually on the right path. I think it's really important. But my message really is to ensure that we do the right thing. We are leaders naturally, and we need to lead by example. We need to ensure that whatever we do, every step that we take, somebody is watching, and we need to ensure that we do the right thing, just to ensure that that person watching copies the right thing, and they will be able to deliver in the future. All right. So thank you very much, Kunle. I will stop there. I have a question for Musu, but I will just
okay. Thank you.
I'll keep it till later. Thank you.
That important intervention. We get it. I think it's always very important to remind ourselves of the culture of integrity, the way we should behave, and now we should the values of hard work that you have explained, and how it will get us to the top. But picking from that, we also know that from what I've heard from the previous speakers, the goalpost is not the same for men and women, despite all the hard work or those values that we should hold and hold. So now I would like to invite Madam Nafi Barry, who rose to the top in the public sector of the Gambia, and now is also the president of the Gambian Women Chamber of Commerce, to tell us women economic empowerment, why is it important, and how do we do it? But also to speak about the challenges and the norms that we need to challenge that hold women back in public service, in private sector, as she did it. How do we move women from being, relegated to, the lower jobs in the public service, and why this is important for economic empowerment. Madam Nafi Barry, you are the last woman to speak, and I trust you will do justice. Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you, Kunle. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. And thanks to UNFPA for inviting us to this very important forum. First, let me state a statement of fact that women make up half of the world's population. And in the Gambia, it is no exception. We all know that actually in the Gambia, it is said that we are 51% of the population. Therefore, if you leave out this large percentage of people from the development of the country, I mean, we cannot progress. So that was my opening statement. And I think we must understand what it means. I mean, human beings are human beings, whether male or female. Of course, we have our differences, but that difference does not warrant that we're left behind to a degree that it hampers the development of this country. Now, when we talk of empowerment in general, it is a multidimensional social progress that helps people gain control over their own lives. Therefore, women's empowerment means women gaining more power and control over their own lives. Now, what do we mean by this? We think that women should be able to contribute towards nation development. Whatever a man can do, a woman can do as well. Therefore, we must give space to our women. Women empowerment, I think, needs to progress. Let me say it properly. Needs to progress. If we don't do that, we cannot narrow the gender gap. And to create a level playing field between men and women, we need to do that. But how do we do that? How? We say women's empowerment is the smartest and the right thing to do, and what is stopping us. Sometimes I really don't understand, because if you go by great men or people around the country, I looked at the 1987 speech of Thomas Sankara on World Women's Day. I mean, it was great. But one thing that I always liked about that is that he said, and I quote, "We always become man with a woman around us." Is that not something that should warrant our men folk to take us around? Because we provide the services to them, like when they return, all men, I can tell you, seek consultation, courage, and inspiration to either to fight or to receive the advices or to temper reckless.
Madam Nafi, if you hear me, I'm going to ask you to please turn off your camera as well. It might help us to hear you the better. Okay. I think we might have lost Madam Barry. Okay, I think we'll just quickly move. Oh, she's back. Madam Barry, if you hear me, could you please turn off your camera so it will help us to hear you the better?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me just do it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we had problems. Sorry, light just went off, and I was switching on to my this thing Wi-Fi. Now I am saying women empowerment is a principle of financial independence for women. And I think, Kunle, I wanted to strictly talk about the public sector, private sector rather, but since you have used me as an example, I must say, I just want to endorse what Fatou had just said, that for women, you do 3 times as much to become a leader. And that because the responsibilities that you have been given to you don't go away. Everything that you used to do, you will continue to do, like family chores, marital responsibilities, everything, plus being a leader. So it's not easy, but I tell you, women are the best leaders because we are few, especially, I'm just relating this to the Gambian situation, we tend to do better because a lot of people are looking up to you. And for us that have been there, you want to be an example to other women. Therefore, you strive for the best and always do the best. So my advice to women is, let's keep the hope, let's be educated, and let us be strong to make sure that we are leaders, because women are effective leaders. Now, we talk of economic empowerment. I just want to come back on this and the reason why we're so we have so much interest in women's economic empowerment. I had been a permanent secretary at the Ministry of Trade, and anytime you call on business people, it's the men that you see. Therefore, when I retired, I decided to set up the Gambia Women's Chamber of Commerce. And why are we doing this? This is just to empower women to take care of their own lives, to become leaders themselves, to become contributors to the socio-economic development of this country. And our wish is really to have the women amongst us so that they strive to become better leaders and make their contributions as we. Now, how do we empower women? I mean, we must place women as leaders. We have to give them decision-making roles. We have to provide them more job opportunities, and we have to invest in women entrepreneurial ideas, emotionally and financially. We have to mentor our women professionally and personally. I mean, it's everything that we do for our other folks, like the men have been enjoying, that we need to come back and do for the women so that they become economically viable and enhanced. So therefore, we need to redefine gender roles to allow women participation and enhancement in the contribution of economic empowerment. The pandemic has created a new reality, an awakening for women. The children are staying at home, some husbands are staying at home, and you still have your chores to do, but yet we are on the fight that women should continue to work. They have been doing unpaid work, but I think women should continue to work. And why this? And this is why going digital is very important for our women, which we have been trying to do to really showcase and help improve the lives of our women.
Thank you very much.
Can I continue, or is it okay?
Okay, go ahead, please. Could you just in 2 minutes, but for want of time. Right. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So really, women empowerment, like I said, is the principle of financial independence for women. Therefore, and we have seen that women who participate in financial planning with their spouse are economically healthier. But what is more important is that they are more confident in their financial future. And this is very important for the health of the woman. They also make fewer financial mistakes. They are less stressed out about money. If women have their money, I mean, they are okay. And if women are okay, the family as well. That's why I said their empowerment is multi-dimensional. Because if they are okay at home, they'll be better mothers, better wives, better contributors. We all know that when women are empowered, the whole family is empowered, because whatever they have is back to the home, either to the children or to the spouse himself, and to her as well. So this releases a lot of burden on the family and the well-being of the family. Thank you, Kunle, until we have other talking points or questions to ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know the passion you have, and that we will continue this, but we are trying to manage the time because we know there are other activities. And very quickly, I'll come back to you. There are lists of questions, and I'm going to read some questions out now that the panelists, that come from the audience. And the one, and this is for all the panelists, and at the end, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to try to give us concrete answers to this, any as you want. How could the Gambian woman seize the opportunity of the upcoming election to increase representation in parliament? This is for everybody. I believe it belongs to everybody, for the young women to Yakuba, the parliamentarian. And then the second question is, what innovative partnership between CSOs and women in politics to move forward the need for greater leadership? Okay, I will try to rephrase the question. I think the question is asking, what partnership can CSO and women groups have? Because women groups are also CSOs as well, I believe, to improve the participation of women in decision-making processes. So that's the role of CSOs. The third question says, with all the policies and strategies in place in advancing women empowerment in the country, little traction is seen compared to Western countries. Is it not time to reimagine what is needed to improve and realize the opportunities? Well, that's a visionary question. Okay, there are policies and plans. I don't know about implementation, but are we supposed to reimagine the policy or take commitment and decisive action? I'd like to hear from the panelists on that. And the other one, it says, how can we challenge the barriers and biases to inequality and the disempowerment of women? Many of the panelists have spoken about the biases and the barriers. How can we challenge them? I think we've heard some, but we'd like to hear finally. The final question says, what tips could you share for those communities who continue to hold girls and women back in the Gambia? From child marriage to female genital mutilation, to the lack of control over their bodies, to lack of economic opportunities. I think while it's universal, it also varies by community. So what can we do? These are the questions, panelists. I hope you got a few of that. They are also in the chat. You can see them. And by the end, you have 2 minutes each to give us concrete answers. Let me finally, the final speaker of the day, he has been waiting for so long, very busy, but the support for women, I know, makes him to remain here and to be here. That's the chief executive of Untitled Chapter Bank in the Gambia. Untitled Chapter is a global conglomerate that I believe is over 100 years old. And we see that they've worked assiduously for gender equality, especially around COVID-19. Recently, they partnered with the United Nations system, for COVID-19 relief efforts, including for women. Mr. Chukwuka, please you take the floor and tell us again the role of the private sector in advancing gender equality and women leadership. We particularly want to hear about the experiences and the actions of Standard Chartered Bank in this area. Thank you very much. Over to you, Chooks.
Thank you very much, Kunle. I'd like to congratulate all the powerful women that have spoken before me. And I'd like to say to you that we hear you and we see how hard you've been working. Kunle, I'd also like to thank you for allowing me to speak last. It has given me the perspective and the ability to be able to take copious notes on various things that the women on this very interesting, the women have on this very interesting topic. I think it is very critical and important for us to start by saying, for me to start by saying, sorry, that it is very clear that what the women want is not a preferential treatment. What they want is an equal treatment, which is critical. Just from listening to everybody that has spoken, I see that we have the women have the competence, the capability, and of course, the expertise to be able to challenge men on equal footing. The problem is that historically, the women have been made to pay the motherhood penalty. Yeah, and the motherhood penalty now is the buzzword for unfair biases against the female child. The fact that the woman has to take time out to raise a family, the fact that there is culturally the traditional setting will favor the male child over the female child. So what we can do to support from the private sector, and I hope the wider community is also doing the same thing, is to create some sort of fairness that will take into account this penalty that the women have paid over the years, just so that they can be given a fair chance on an equal footing to challenge men for roles in organizations. I think that's very critical for us to say. The women are not saying do us any big favors. They're just saying realize that we've been treated unfairly and give us equal opportunity. And I think it's very important that we respect that. For us as Standard Chartered Bank, what we are doing is to realize that there's this motherhood penalty and to realize that we have to actively act and actively take actions that will realize that equality. One of the female contributors has said that men need to support. I am the only man here. I feel very lonely, but I think I will try and do my best to address the topic on hand. But first thing that we've done in Standard Chartered Bank is to make a public acknowledgement of the fact that there is a challenge. We signed up with the United Nations on their women empowerment principles. There are 7 principles. I'm not going to go into that, but I'm going to tell you how we've reacted to each of those principles in the light of so many things that I've seen that the ladies here have actually mentioned. The first one is The ownership for creating gender equality in our organization is taken at the highest level. So my group CEO is the one who drives the agenda globally. For the Gambia, as CEO for Standard Chartered Bank of the Gambia, it is my personal responsibility to take charge of this gender equality and ensuring the implementation to the core. That's the first thing that we do. Second thing that we do is we also ensure that there is fair treatment and fair opportunities for women to challenge equally, despite the negative impacts, like I said, of the motherhood penalty. One other thing that we do is to create women networks so that successful women within the system can support other successful or other aspiring women. Because for us as men, we can support as much as possible. The reality is that we don't know all the nuances. So it is best place, like I've seen today, and from the notes I've taken, there are certain things that only the women will know. And they are the best people to be able to support their fellow women, with, of course, collaboration from their male to help them up the ladder. I want to say that in terms of gender equality and the targets that we've set for ourselves, Standard Chartered Bank has set globally a target of 30% for 2020. We've achieved that. We actually got to 29.5 globally in terms of women in the very senior roles. And we're not measuring the junior roles, we're measuring very senior roles. In Standard Chartered Bank, the Gambia, for the senior roles, we're talking, there's junior level, middle level, and senior roles. The senior roles, we have 55%. So I'm happy when Madam Barry was talking about 50% or 51% of women population in the Gambia. We've surpassed that for our senior roles. We are 55%. However, when it comes to the executive management role, which are my one-downs, my direct reports, we are at 40%. We are higher than what our global target is, which is 30%. All these things we actually publicize. We make it public because we've given our commitment to it. One other thing that we do is, as a global organization, we publish our gender gap report. Now, the gender gap report just says how much women earn differently versus the men. It's not because we pay women differently in the Standard Chartered Bank. No, what happens is because of the challenges that women traditionally and culturally have faced, they are not able to rise as quickly to the senior management roles. So what we are doing in order to address the gender gap is those things that I've talked about in terms of creating specific targets. So the more we get women into senior management roles, the more we balance the gender gap. That's another thing that we do. We put our mouth where our money is, we publicize it, and we hold the CEO of the organization responsible for that. We also train. We train people to manage unconscious biases. So all our colleagues in the office, we train them so that when you get into the office environment, when you meet female collaborators, you are conscious of those biases that we may have, either culturally or otherwise. We also train our people in terms of inclusive leadership, diversity of ideas, be it female, be it male, be it intergenerational, like we're doing today. So we also do active training and development to make people consciously aware that there could be differences, and such differences are desirable, especially in terms of achieving the ultimate goals and objective of the organization. We also target young ladies and young girls and women, and young women, girls and young women, for training, be it financial literacy, be it wellness. We also have programs. We have Goal. This is one of our programs for wellness, and we have the Future Makers, which is another program that we do targeting future leaders at a younger level. Another thing we do is that even at an interview level, when you're creating a panel to interview people for roles, we insist on having gender diversity. So you cannot have a panel that has only one type of person or people, male, it has to be male, female, young, old. We try to balance it out so that we can have a holistic balance in terms of opinions, even when we're interviewing for job roles. In the organization, on a day-to-day basis, we also define clearly what is acceptable behavior, which is gender sensitive. We try to make sure that harassment in the workplace is kept to the barest minimum, if not fully eliminated. There are strong consequences for wrong behavior in the workplace. The idea is for us to create a safe work environment in all our office premises. I think there's zero tolerance for any non-compliant behavior when it comes to harassment and unacceptable behavior in our workplace. We're also quite conscious of our tone at work, even the language that we use, even in product nomenclature when we design our products and offer our services. We actually make sure that we've taken all gender sensitive issues into consideration when we're putting them out. We're also trying on deliberately to focus our attention on developing female vendors. So the suppliers to the bank. Traditionally, you will see those as male-dominated environments. Suppliers to the bank, we're deliberately making sure that we have females who are qualified and who have the necessary wherewithal to also become onboarded as qualified vendors to the bank. So these are some of the things that the bank as a whole is doing. I want to also use the opportunity to just congratulate all the women that have spoken here. It's a pleasure and it's my privilege to have been part of the conversation. I see that you're doing great and wonderful things in your own spheres. I can tell you that you may think you're doing a small thing, but I think you will get a lot of people, young women, older women who are fully and think. If somebody tells you you're too small to make an impact, please tell them to go to bed with a mosquito. Then they will realize that even a small mosquito can have a huge impact on your life. Thank you, Kule. I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Chooks. Your bandwidth started to misbehave in the end. It's like you knew I was going to ask you to hand over, my reign back to me. But thank you very much. I think those are very, very good points, and I think we got a lot of enviable examples, best practices from what you have said today, from fairness in the workplace to the global commitment of the UN that Standard Chartered signed on to. Taking the gender equality test, recruitment, 55% of women in senior roles, 40% here in the Gambia. I'll just make the first recommendation that should be noted. I do not know whether you share these best practices with the committee of bankers, because we have banks that employ a lot of people, or also there's a lot you can do with the Gambian Women Chamber of Commerce, whose president is here today, and also the Ministry of Gender, Women and Social Welfare. I think there are a lot here that can be shared. We note these things, we'll reach out to you and see how we can move this forward to get other companies in the Gambia to buy into this kind of excellent ideas and clear, specific ways of improving gender equality and equity. Colleagues, thank you very much. We intend to end this in another 10 minutes. I have listed the questions. If any panelist, please, has a response, I will give 2 minutes to try to give us concrete answers to the questions that have been listed earlier. We can start from how do we get women to participate better, specifics in the political process that is coming forward, whether through CSO or women groups. How do we do that? If any panelist has an answer to that, would like to take the floor, please. You can unmute your mic and let us know. Political issues. Okay, from the question that I listed, if any panelist has a response to any of those questions, we would like to have you. I'm not sure you can unmute yourself, but Lamin, how do we know if they want to speak? Okay, Musu's hand is up. Ramo, Lamin, can you please unmute Musu? But I don't see the hands.
On that question, I think perhaps what we should also ask ourselves, particularly the political parties, is what are they going to do? Because women would want to participate in parliamentary elections, but it's also an opportunity for them, particularly those who formerly belong to political parties, to have nominations at party levels. So perhaps one of the things that could happen for future elections in particular would be to have a policy that requires political parties for both primary elections and also for parliamentary and other local government elections to have a certain number of women candidates who would be able to, the broader public would be able to vote for. Because it's easy for us to say, oh, women can come forward. But for a lot of them to become independent candidates, for example, we know there is a lot of resources that are necessary and needed, which are not readily available to them. So perhaps the opportunity would be for political parties in particular to be able to have certain positions dedicated to women. And that is where the affirmative action is going to kick in, that every political party needs to ensure that for primaries and other elections, they have women nominated at party level so that they can contest these elections. In addition to this, of course, we need to continue raising the awareness on the part of our communities to ensure that they're ready, because we need to factor in those socio-cultural dynamics, which are a problem in the country where we do not see women as in positions of power, but we just see them in that regard based on our cultures. Once we're able to do this simultaneously, I think women would be ready to participate in elections. Otherwise, it would just be an ideology and it would never be implemented.
Thank you very much, Musu. I picked two things from there for the rapporteur. It's basically, we don't have a law now on affirmative action or women representation. It's advocacy with the political parties to ensure that they support advocacy with the political parties and communities, better advocacy. Those things have started. I know they exist, but it's to work with political parties to ensure that they field women candidates and they have some form of quota system in their candidature for women. Please note it, Rapporteur. Madam Barry, over to you. Please, I give you 2 minutes. I would have to stop you if you're going over that. Thank you.
No, I will not. Thank you, Kunle. Just wanted to support what Bakoto just said. It's about having the law in place. Let's not leave anything to discretion now. I totally support that we have a law indicating the percentage that we want for women representation. And this is where we may start. We may not start with 100, or we may not start with 50-50, or we may start with 30, for example, and rise to what we expect, 30-30, as we are doing with the procurement now. We're having government to legislate, and advocacy needs to be set up so that government recognizes the role women play and continue to play. But having talked about that, my specialty is not in politics. I just wanted to talk about how do we make sure that women are not continuously held back. Just wanted to say something. I think there is need for continuous sensitization, and we also need to bring women leaders forward. There is need for them to be showcased. Let's talk about their success stories. Let's talk about what they do and how they do it. This can influence many parents, because too often what is said about women is that for those, especially in the rural areas, is that if you expose these women to leaderships or to education, they become bad people. So I'm just saying that there is need for continuous sensitization, but we also need to have success stories of women so that they can be showcased and people would want to be like the Musu Kotos, the whatever, all successful women or all women that are contributing. So that was my contribution. Thank you.
To the next speakers, the first always take the time and then we struggle. So if I try to stop you and you will have to switch off your mind. You can do that from here. Madam Jallo, over to you.
Good afternoon once again. Just before we go, I wanted to just dwell on one area that I think has been hampering the progress of women in the Gambia. I'm an employer and there are different employers. And because of this maternity leave of 6 months, which was supposed to have helped women, it is something that was supposed to help women in nursing their newborn babies and taking them on. However, this act, in my view, is becoming a hindrance towards women progressing, in that most employers are now, whether directly or indirectly, refusing, can I say refusing, to employ women in certain areas because of the fear of what if they have to go on maternity and then they stay at home for 6 months before they come back. So this is an area that I think government or parastatals or we have to look at it again, because it is something that is really affecting women, especially with regards to hiring them and getting them opportunities and making them, even pushing them to certain levels at some point. They're really being marginalized as a result. Thank you very much, Kunle. Before you take your mic.
Thank you very much. Ms. Joe, over to you. Oh, you've dropped your hand. Madam Jaisi, do you have anything to say on the political process?
Hello.
Okay. Over to you.
Hello. Okay. Thank you very much, Conle.
Okay.
I just want to talk on
Again, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Just last week, we have the CSOs met with IEC, and we have been asking all this while where is the election bill, and we have come to know that it's from executive and its way to parliament. So the CSOs are thinking of engaging parliament to make sure affirmative clauses are put in the election bill before it is passed in parliament. That is one way our CSOs are making sure of women participation. And the other thing is we have a very close work with the Inter-Party Youth Committee that to encourage young people to go into politics to take up positions, but as well as most especially women. And the last one, I think one barrier on the side of women for women participation in politics that we can do is education. We need to educate women, most especially rural women, on their roles, why they are important in the political space. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.
To you, Mr. Chooks, the last speaker, before we round up.
Yeah, thank you, Kunle. I just, can you hear me?
We hear you, we hear you.
Okay, no, I just wanted to talk about some of the areas that I think are critical. Mariama said a few things that resonate with me. She said poverty has a female face, and I agree with that. I think we need to educate our women folk, support them as much as possible on financial literacy so that they can raise themselves out of subsistent living, so that they can aspire beyond just subsistency. We need to also make it clear that women are not asking for any favors. They are asking to be treated as equals. So nobody's asking anybody to do anything that is not within their purview to do. I think we need to be very clear with that. Some other thing that we need to do is that there's no way the women can do it on their own. Unfortunately, because of this motherhood penalty that the lady from because of the motherhood penalty corporate environment, we need to get the men to realize that in order for them to level the playing field, there needs to be some fairness. So more advocacy about among men. Those three things I think will have a bigger impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have to end it here today. Let me quickly try to summarize on the action point. We've had a lot of things. But when I listen to the action point, I have to go back. I cannot but go back to questions that said there are policies, there are laws, but we can say there are not enough policies. What I've heard today says that we need to continue in our advocacy to different sectors, political parties, government, civil society, and communities to understand the role of women in national development. You cannot keep 51% of your population disempowered and you think we'll have that great Gambia that we want. So that is one. The second thing speaks about legislation and it goes on advocacy. Again, at some point, you need some kind of affirmative action to get things done. If we do not do this, we might not be able to realize the Gambia we want at the speed we so desire. So we need to, I know that there is some form of quota in the draft constitution that was circulated. I do hope that when we have a new constitution for the Gambia, this will remain there. But we should continue those advocacy, even with political parties before laws and legislation. And I think political parties like to look good. And if we let them know how this would make them look good, but not only to make them understand that the change that we desire has to come from these issues. We need to sensitize women leaders. I have sensitized women and men that's been ongoing. And I also go on to the penalty. I've never used that word that Mr. Chooks rightly said. Women bear a lot of pain for the issues that were naturally defined on them, childbearing and issues like that. And that's why I'm happy to hear that, unfortunately, women are being penalized for having children, like our wonderful panelist, the MD of Takapu said. So that shows that we need more advocacy with government, the labor ministry, to ensure that organizations are not able to discriminate against women by the fact that they are bringing children to the world for the men who are taking the positions or with the men who are taking the positions. So these are things that I believe are key. Finally, is the issue of fairness across board, being able to learn from one another. We can learn from one another like we have learned from the experiences of Standard Chartered as an organization and as a company in the Gambia. Ultimately, the work of ensuring gender equality and developing Gambia is our collective responsibility. I want to challenge everybody today to also challenge themselves and yourself to say, in my own area, in my own sphere, in my own little community, even if it's to talk to one or two people to make a change, to be more conscious to their biases against women, to see, to understand, and just to take a decision that I want to learn more. I want to know more about gender equality. I believe we would have done a lot. On that note, I want to thank everybody for attending this conversation. We hope that we will try to ensure that it is a continuous conversation. We will put together the report and the action point and also disseminate, hoping that with this kind of conversation and dialogue, intergenerational as we know it, we'll be able to make the change that we desire for the Gambia. Before we go, I will ask us all to turn on our cameras and we can take a group picture. And after that, we can dismiss. Thank you very much and happy International Women's Day to us all. So your cameras on, please. Everybody. Lami, you can remove the spotlights so that it is, yeah. It's only Mr. Chooks I see. How can the view change? Gallery. Yeah, okay. Please, everybody, okay, it's not filled well. Okay, everyone, your cameras. Okay. I mean, even if you're in the kitchen, it's where everyone, it's okay. No discrimination. And communications colleagues, are we fine with the pictures? Are we okay with the pictures? Okay, then. Thank you very much, and have a good day, everybody. Thank you, thank you. We appreciate it. To our panelists, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Bye, and have a good day.